Do you guys ever find yourselves wandering through old computer magazines and looking at all the early 2000s stuff thinking, man, that was awesome? Inevitably for me, going through this, end up going on eBay and looking for things that I don't need. But here's something that I've been looking for that I actually needed. Well, that's what I tell myself at least. But we've got the Toshiba Satellite 4015 CDT, all the way from Russia. A couple of months later, it arrived at my door and we're going to have a look over it. 4000 series of Toshibas is not very common. It was a very short run, Pentium 2 based models using old shells and things they had lying around, I guess. But it started with the 4010 up to the 4020, which you see there. 300 megahertz CPU on that one and a larger screen, whereas the 410 only had a 266 megahertz CPU and a smaller screen. But that doesn't matter because I've got a Toshiba 4015, which sort of sits smack bang in the middle. As far as I can tell, they're the same. Same machine, same spec. I don't know what the difference is. I looked, I couldn't find anything, but of course two models being this series of Toshibas, CDS and the CDT. This one's got the 266 megahertz Pentium 2 on the venerable 440BX chipset. Very good chipset to have in the retro gaming community. Up to 160 megabytes of memory supported. You've got the CDS with the dreadful dual scan display and the one to go for the active TFT display. The dual scan display is pretty much useless for anything other than word processing, unless you connect it up to an external monitor, which is of course doable. Video is provided by the venerable Chips and Technology 655555 with the 2 megabytes of memory on board. It has fantastic DOS game compatibility, which is what I wanted. It's all going for DOS and Windows, early Windows gaming here. It comes with a 4 gigabyte hard drive, which is very slow. Supports Ultra DMA too. Floppy disk drive that's built into the machine. I wanted that. And CD-ROM. I wanted the floppy disk drive mainly because it's easier and you don't have to use an external drive. Sounds provided by the OPL3 Yamaha chipset with very important Sound Blaster compatibility. It's very, very compatible with DOS games, this sound chip. Fantastic. It's also got good direct 3D sound support as well. But yeah, I really wanted this machine because it's got a really cool shell. It's, you know, the old thick Toshiba. It's got a Pentium 2, so just a little bit more speed. Screen resolution's perfect. It scales pretty good. You know, very compatible components inside. You know, you got the Pentium 2, you got the sound support, the inbuilt floppy disk drive, plus some nice things like USB, PS2, and of course you can put some cards in there like I've got, which I've fitted a network card into mine. But yeah, what we'll do is we'll have a look at the one that I've picked up and we'll see what it needs. Alright, out of the gate this potato has a BIOS password, which is not fun, but thankfully Toshiba have this handy parallel port adapter which you can make up. Check out my previous video for that, but you plug it in and it unlocks the password. It's a very handy tool to have, works on a wide range of laptops. The machine overall is in good shape, except some of the rubber is all degraded. These buttons are all gross and sticky and full of poop. I don't know what that is, and the cable's gross. Like, it's disgusting. It's got stickers all over it. It is gross. But yeah, we've got the donor machine, which I'm going to just rob its keyboard from. This machine's been used as a parts, you know, donor before, but the keyboard's alright. It's a little bit yellowed. Some of the keycaps are a little bit worn, and it has some nice rubber buttons. Always a good idea to do diagnostics on a new machine that you get, because this one had a bad memory module. It's a shame. It was the 128 megabyte extra module. But yeah, I always run hard drive and memory diagnostics when I get machines that I don't know. Thankfully, I had a spare 64 megs. The machine has 32 on board. I'm really lucky that it wasn't actually the onboard memory that was faulty, because that would have been a disaster, because it's soldered to the board, so you'd have to desolder it with a heat gun or something, but I don't have those skills or parts. But yeah, overall, what we're going to do is strip the machine down, give it a good cleaning, and also I wanted to see if I could switch out some of those buttons, which means on this model, unfortunately, you have to separate the top half with the screen to the bottom half of the case, which is thankfully not too hard to do. Just needed to remove a few screws. Battery and hard drive comes out, and there's some screws under the keyboard, which I'll show you guys. But yeah, we'll just watch me disassemble the machine. Very important, do not forget the 2 screws at the back of the machine. Very easy to forget about and to break, but there's only 2 of them and they're a different size from all the others, so that makes it easy too. And there is only just a few screws in between the keyboard and the top cover, and then all you have to do is remove all the connections in between the top half and bottom half, so like the screen, the microphone, what else have you got there? Oh, the speakers, left and right speakers, things like that. So yeah, not too hard to get into, really. Alright, with the easy jobs out of the way, now it's time for the hard part that everybody hates, and that's breaking the plastic clips. What I did was I slowly worked my way around with a guitar pick type device, very slowly, and they just sort of popped apart, which is what you want. The slower you go, the better. I don't recommend using a flathead screwdriver just because I've done that and broken the clips before. They're quite brittle. But yeah, sadly after all that work I realised the top cover, the buttons for the mouse are all riveted to the top case, which is sad because the one here had some screws holding it in, which means you can sort of rob it, but yeah, no joy on this one. But what we'll do is we'll clean out the fan, remove the old batteries while we're here, because you can only get to them on this model by removing that top cover. And it's very important on your Toshibas to check or remove these because they leak, and it's the biggest killer of these machines. Those batteries, they leak and eat the traces out on the board, and you can see here that this one of these is already slightly leaky or has been replaced in the past. But yeah, the big one's for standby and the small one's for your CMOS. Normally both of them leak. This one here is starting to leak, you can see on the green on the pin there, but thankfully I got to this one just in time. I'm just going to point out the screws. If you want to remove the motherboard, you just remove all those screws and the little metal bracket around the USB port and the plug for the fan, and then you can work the board out, of course removing all the ribbon cables, and you have to remove all these standoffs too. They all have to come out. They're kind of fixed to the metal bracket. But yeah, what I did was I ended up just cleaning the fan out, making sure the machine was all dust free, and then what I'll do is put the lid back on and we'll carry on with the restoration. Alrighty, well, one more tip is basically try and position the flaps on the plastic shielding here in such a way that you can get them open, because if they're all sandwiched down and you screw the top lid back on, it makes it really hard to get them open to get the connectors back in. But yeah, just a little tip there. Alright, the new keyboard is in and looking a lot better, and we're going to do a quick power on test. Very important to do to make sure it works before crowning the king, or putting the cherry on top or whatever you want. Going to put the plastic thingy-majiggy back in there to hold the keyboard in. Very important, otherwise it will fall out. There's no screws holding the keyboards in, it all relies on this plastic thing. And then very satisfying was to clean the display. It turned out really nice, actually. I was really happy to see that it wasn't all scratched and, marked. Just needed a really good clean with some good LCD cleaner. This is just generic stuff, but the microfiber cloth, I think, is where the magic is. It turned out really nice. And I managed to get a bit more of that yellowing out of the mouse button. And then I just went over it with alcohol to make sure I got rid of all the human bogies and whatever else collects over the last 2 decades of grossness. But bleh, bleh. And I found some Restore CDs, but they were in German, so and it was Windows 98 first edition, so it wasn't very useful in terms of, for me, for language reasons. And it also partitioned the hard drive in that horrible 2-partition thing, so I thought what I'd do is try and upgrade it to Windows 98 second edition with an English CD, and it did warn me, but it installed and it updated and it was mostly in English, but yeah, still got the split drives of course, so used partition magic to sort that all out. But I scrapped it because the source was in German. There was some core OS stuff that was still in German and it didn't quite work. So I went with a fresh install of Windows 95, fully patched. Also, I brought over all the Toshiba stuff and put the little model number in there, as you can see. Just some nice little touches and things like that. So all the drivers are there except one weird PCI communication device. I don't know what that is, but even USB's installed, it's fully supported. That's all working, infrared, all the extra little things like that are all installed. But yeah, we'll check it out and see what's on the build. Alrighty, we've got the 266 megahertz CPU there, Pentium 2 with the RAM. No AGP support from the Chips and Technology chipset, which is fair enough, but the MIDI works. Yeah, I'd love to have a Dream Blaster or something in this thing, but yeah, we got Office 2000 installed on my favourite copies of Office. Got the Word here, you can do the old clip art and shapes and things like that. Pure nostalgia hit, well for me at least. you know, wasting the ink in the printer, doing word art and stuff like that. But yeah, it's all here, it all works, so that's good. And Clippy's there hanging out in the corner there, being annoying as usual. And now we'll get down to what I really wanted to, which is the games. This machine's got some great DOS game support, so we'll go through it and see what's what. thought I'd be a bit cheeky and try a more demanding Windows game like SimCity 3000. Great soundtrack, but yeah, the game runs rather slowly. I was hoping that extra little bit of 30 megahertz that I had from the last machine I tried this on would help, but it did a little bit, but not by much.
Computer updated. Computer updated.
Alrighty, well that wraps up this one for now at least. I've got a few upgrades that I want to do to the machine at some point. But yeah, just wanted to try that Pentium 2 power. It's definitely helps a little bit in this one. Yeah, fun project. Always enjoy cleaning them up and getting them all nice and, you know, refreshed. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Hope everyone's keeping well, enjoying their holiday season break, and yeah, catch you guys soon.